Welcome to Housing Developments.
I'm Jim Tobin.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Here we are in the long, hot summer in Washington, D.C. I think the loving spoonful would be happy with the weather finally, but looks like what everybody else is dealing with out west is finally rolling into D.C.
Yeah, seriously. It's going to stay here for a little while, right?
Going to stay here for a few days. Yeah, we're not quite used to it. Again, it is July. I always say July is hotter than August.
Yep.
But we're going to get a good full taste of summer now.
Oh, absolutely. But talking about the heat index is no joke. I mean, we're looking at in some areas of the country, 105 up to 115 degrees. Yep. Just to start off as a real, kind of public service announcement, NHB has developed a heat toolkit. It kind of gives OSHA's greatest advice in regards to keeping your crews safe, cool, and just kind of away from that scary moment where they may have some sort of heat issue out there in the field.
Yeah, lots of water, breaks. I mean, that's really what it's about, and making sure that we want to take care of our workers.
Absolutely.
And make sure that they're safe and sound. So
absolutely. Yeah. But if you're interested, it's a whole toolkit. Go to nhb.org and just look up heat toolkit and you'll find it there. It's actually some good stuff there.
Yeah, great.
I guess let's talk about the economy again, right? It's kind of crazy. We just got GDP numbers. Once again, they beat expectations. Yeah. Up 2.4% seasonally adjusted annualized rate. Everybody was expecting somewhere around 1.8.
Right.
So this is an economy that seems to be going gangbusters.
It's certainly resilient, to say the least. It makes you wonder how much harder this makes the Fed's job moving forward to try to cool things off. Great on one side that the GDP numbers are up. That's what you want to hear.
Sure.
But in this weird environment we're in, maybe a slower GDP number, a lower GDP number is more helpful to us in the long run here. But
that's right.
But nonetheless, housing is such a big component of it. When I'm on the road, talk to our members all the time. They're not only optimistic, but they're busy. And it makes sense.
Absolutely. So let's roll back the week a little bit. The Fed met this week. No surprises there. They increased the rate by 25 basis points, but and they gave a pretty strong indication that they are willing to raise it again if need be.
Yeah, like you said, no surprise in the 25 basis points. Seems like the market had priced that in. Everybody's been talking about it for the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially knowing that they're going to go away for the next 6 weeks until they get into early September, and they're not sure there will even be another rate hike then, but the Fed telegraphed that they're not done yet. And, just walking back Chair Powell's comments over the last couple of months at various forums, not only do they think that, he's made it clear we're going to keep doing this until we get to the point where we think we've got inflation snuffed out, but more importantly, then keep them high for a while. I mean, to the point where he even said out loud, he doesn't see any rate decreases even in 2024. So again, not surprising, but it also should send a signal to a lot of people that we're not out of the woods yet. And as much as I'm praying for the soft landing, I still think there's a little way to go about whether or not that runway is going to be long enough for him.
And we're at 5.5% now.
22-year high.
22-year high. I mean, yet we're looking at the housing market, and it's kind of a tale of two cities, right? It's the best of times and it's the worst of times, depending on where you are on that side of the equation. But the numbers, this week we had sales. They were down, but they were down again from a very high May number. Yeah. You look at the 3-month, moving average, and we're still going in the right direction of slowly creeping up in increases. The week prior, right after we did our last podcast, starts came out, and single family doing okay. Again, down from a really weird high May number. But to your point, the permit numbers looked really good in the single family.
Yeah, everything seems to show that there's going to continue to be strength in housing, even though interest rates are eroding some of the strength.
Yeah.
There's people out there that either they've got the money or they're willing to take a gamble that we have seen the peak in the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that over the next couple of years, we could see rates fall, in which case you can refi, and there's an opportunity there that, of course, would help our friends over at the mortgage bankers and that part of their business.
Yeah.
But I do think we've got to be mindful that the Fed is watching those numbers as well, whether it's our HMI and watching those numbers continue to creep up, even though we're only up a point. It's still showing strength in that market. And we know from conversations we've had with the Fed that the housing market and their concerns there, that's also part of their equation as well. So, it's just the resiliency of the market, especially since, as we've discussed on the pod before, that newly constructed homes are making up that bigger percentage of for sale market right now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at the existing sales numbers and they're still, falling off a cliff because there's literally no inventory in some markets.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, our members, builders across the nation are, taking advantage of that and actually providing a pretty great service, right? But the question is sustainability, right? Like how long can this really keep going?
Yeah, well, it's just, we're threading the needle, right? We can keep housing going, but bring that inflation down, bring that supply chain back online. Then rates begin to fall. I pray at the oracle of Dr. Robert Dietz, and he sees this nice long runway for home construction over the next 8 to 10 years. Maybe we don't see that big dip that we thought we would here to kick that off, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, as you're traveling across the country, what's the message you're telling our members and those around the country that are listening to you?
Well, what I tell them is that it continues to be a great time to build, continues to be a great time to buy. That we are watching new homes prop up the housing market. We always know we do, but to such an extent in that market, month to month, that we're making up almost 40% new homes are, rather than traditionally closer to 10%, if not in single digits. So it's just interesting to make sure that we're providing the services to continue to allow our members to build and move homes through the pipeline. Even more now, the government needs to make sure that they're clearing that underbrush. We talk a lot about regulatory burdens at the local level, the state level, and of course what we do here on the federal level. But that is, the Fed continues to do its thing. That's really where we're gonna see our biggest help from the government side is going to be in reducing the barriers to more home construction.
Interesting. Talking about the government, we touched a little bit about this last week about Job Corps.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of progress, or at least we're starting to see a little bit more of what the scenario is going to start looking like as we get to the end of summer. We start hitting that deadline to try and get some sort of fiscal policy in place. What are you hearing?
Well, we just Job Corps very briefly. The House zeroed out the program. We're working to restore it in the House appropriations package, but we just saw the Senate numbers came out. The Senate Labor, Health and Human Services appropriations bill came out yesterday. What we saw is a full restoration, fully funded Job Corps program. So, kind of tale of two cities. If I maybe continue going down that theme for today, that we've got a House with zero, we've got a Senate with fully funded. My goal is to get the House at a fully funded level. So there's no negotiations there. The Job Corps program is valuable and it's fully funded. But we are starting to see the tension. We're starting to see renewed tension, let's call it, with the conservatives in the House, the Republican House of Representatives, fighting with the appropriators about what the appropriate levels are for appropriations bills. Speaker McCarthy, President Biden, they negotiated this budget deal.
Yeah.
That set the caps for the appropriations process for this year. House conservatives want to see that ratcheted back even more, and we're starting to see a revolt inside the party about who's going to win on that, whether or not they can get bills passed. There's bills on the floor this week, right before they go away for the traditional summer recess.
Right.
And those are even in jeopardy because we can't get everybody on the same boat, especially when you only have, 4 or 5 extra seats. That's the challenge.
Right. I mean, I know that here in the building, we're working, it's kind of all hands on deck for this process, right? Government affairs, communications, HBI, we're all, just because the Senate is taking off doesn't mean that we are.
That's right.
So we're definitely putting a full court press on this.
Yeah, we're gonna shift and use the August recess where members of Congress are home for the next 6 weeks or so, or 5 weeks, to make sure that our members are especially in those Job Corps districts, are talking to those representatives about the value of the program, especially for an industry that it needs skilled workers. And this is a program that trains those workers.
Right.
It's a pretty easy sell in my mind. So we'll be working hand in glove with Ed Brady at HBI and our team here to get that message out.
Sweet. I guess we always have to talk about regulations. We take it seriously, obviously, because as you know, our members do.
Right.
Another PSA kind of thing. We've created an inclusionary zoning resource manual.
Right.
I don't know if you know too much about it. It just came out. We actually went out to an outside law firm. They put together a 50-state, review of not only the voluntary but also the involuntary zoning policies out there. So again, if people want to check it out, you do have to be a member of NHB to get it, because it's pretty pricey, but it's also very informative. So if you do that, go to nhb.org and look for it. It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, great resource. So many of our executive officers are fighting inclusionary zoning battles. There's a way to do it. There's a way to do land use right. There's a way to accommodate affordability. I think we're all on board with that. But what we see is some really bad ideas out there that actually don't build affordable housing in the long run.
That's right. Do you think that right now the White House is still keeping its eye on housing? I mean, we kind of got a sense early on. I mean, we didn't always agree with what they were doing,
right.
But they've got a lot of balls up in the air right now. What's your sense? I mean, as you go to the White House?
Yeah, I still think it's the same piece, which is they're looking at regulation or tax dollars to lower the cost of housing. I prefer to do it the other old-fashioned way, which is to
earn it.
Yeah. Thank you, John Hausman. I prefer to actually see us lower the barriers to home construction to put more supply in the market. It's my mantra on the road about that's the only way we're going to solve this problem. But for instance, last week we saw the White House roll out. We're going after junk fees. Well, look, having bought tickets on Ticketmaster, I assure you that I fully understand the junk fees out there. But to equate what our members do and our landlords do on the rental side as junk fees, I think is a little disingenuous.
Right.
We're talking with HUD this week as well on a variety of things that they're working on. So we'll get a little bit more sense of what they're doing. But I know Jessica Lynch and our housing policy team, they talk to HUD all of the time to figure out where they're going. There's some things we don't like, right? We've got an FHA proposal to make sure that all FHA finance properties are at the 2021 IECC.
Right.
That's not something we're all in for, or not even a little in for.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that we're, kind of give with one hand and then take with others. So it's a constant balancing act with this administration.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a busy summer for us.
It is,
for sure.
Always.
I mean, you look at a place like Hawaii, right? I mean, love my people in Hawaii, right?
Love people.
But they're trying to regulate sound and noise, right? Like so. And it's not just like, the construction stuff. I mean, it's everywhere, right? Like bars and so on and so forth, right? So, I mean, you go out, right, and have, you're having drinks, having a good times, and you're really kind of boisterous, and they keep it to a low ha.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, for Christ's sake! Did you really just say that, dude? I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
Anyway, on that, we can let that go. That's a good way to sign off, right?
Wow. All right. I'm Jim Tobin.
I'm Paul Lopez.
Till next time.